अच्छा हम सेट रेडी हां गेस्ट ଆସିଗଲେଣି
ଆସୁଛନ୍ତି ବାଟରେ ଅଛନ୍ତି।
ओके जस्ट बी वेरी केयरफुल एक तो से रॉयल गेस्ट आउ तापर आउ गोटे बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग रिलेशन अछि तांकर हमरो श्री मंदिर संगे हैला
କିନ୍ତୁ ତାଙ୍କୁ ତ ଓଡ଼ିଆ ଆସେନି।
ठीक अछि तो असुविधा नहीं आम पाई कि तांकर इंटेंशनटा बेसी इंपोर्टेंट है ना तो किसी ना किसी फाइंड आउट कर दबा गेस ताकि हम दर्शक पाखु तांकर मेसेजटा प्रॉपर्ली पहुंची परिबो कोन कहउछ
Okay.
ए बता हां
ଆଜ୍ଞା
ओके जिबा Dear Odisha-vasi, Jai Jagannath. Today we have a royal guest with us who has flown all the way from Nepal to Odisha. She is the wife of former general of Nepal Army. She is a very lovely mother, a doting grandmother and a culinary writer. She is Mrs. Rohini Rana. Welcome ma'am to our podcast show Wisdom of Odisha.
Thank you so much, Mrs. Lokmudra, for having me today. Thank you so much.
It is a great honor to have you in our show, ma'am. You are hailing from a royal family. Please tell us a little bit about your childhood and your journey from India to Nepal.
Okay, let me start from my childhood. I am born in Agra, and I hail from a old royal family of Avagar. So I was born in Agra. I grew up in Nainital in the very nice, pretty hill station, and did my schooling there in St. Mary's Convent. Later, I went on to do college in Ajmer in Sophia College, and 2 days before my final exams, I got engaged to then Lieutenant Gaurav Shamsher Jang Bahadur Rana of Nepal. He comes from the erstwhile family, Rana family. And when I got engaged and went home, my mother realized to her horror that I have no home skills. I had been in a boarding since childhood. And when you come home for holidays, no one makes you go into the kitchen and cook or do any work. So then she suddenly put my bhabi, my sister-in-law, Rani Anjali Kumari, to the task of teaching me some home skills. Thereafter started my let's say my passion, my love of cooking and culinary arts. I was married in 1977 to then Lieutenant Gaurav Rana and went to Nepal. And since then, Kathmandu and Nepal has been my home, a country I have grown to love. I have become a Nepali citizen now. And I have 2 daughters, 4 grandchildren. And so that is my life in a nutshell till now.
When we look at history, we find a lot of strong connections between Nepal and Odisha. Would you like to shed some light on this, please?
Yes, I was once, my daughter was married in Odisha. I started reading up about the connection, if there was any, between Nepal and Odisha. Because one doesn't imagine, 2 places, 2 towns which are so far away, how could they have a historical connection? So once I read up about it, I found there is a lot of religious and spiritual connection which goes back centuries, literally. So in the 11th century, the king of Nepal presented to King Jajati Keshari
Okay.
some precious stones, which is enclosed in the wooden statues of Jagannath.
Oh, wow.
The Shaligram is kept inside the wooden statues of Jagannath Ji. And that is not the only one. Then coming on in 1563, there was a king, Mahendra Pratap Malla, who built the Jagannath temple in Kathmandu in the main Darbar square. So that is a great connection. I had never thought of that also. Then the third connection which I found was both the temples of Pashupatinath and Jagannath Ji were established by Adi Shankaracharya. So having established those 2 temples, Shankaracharya till now has the spiritual and the ritualistic jurisdiction over both the temples under the Govardhan Mutt.
Wow.
So that goes back in time and is still continuing today. And the most important and very interesting fact is that the king of Nepal is a sevak of Jagannath Ji, just like Prajapati, of Puri.
Exactly.
And both of these kings can enter the inner sanctum sanctorum with a couple of high priests And the king of Nepal is the only one who is allowed to sit on the Ratna Singhasan and perform the Aarti Puja.
Which our king is also not having that kind of royalty, you know?
Yes, you are right. It is only the king of Nepal who can sit on this Ratna Singhasan or Vedi and perform the Aarti. Even Prajapati is not allowed to do that. And just a few high priests, Prajapati of Puri and the king of Nepal, are allowed to enter the inner premises, let's say, of the Jagannath temple, the inner sanctum. So that is a very, very special honor, I must say, given to our king. There was a story of kasturi being supplied by the king of Nepal that was used in some of the pujas and the rituals.
Exactly.
But unfortunately, that has been discontinued because the monarchy is no more there. Since after the abolishment of the monarchy in Nepal, that tradition has been discontinued.
Okay. But still Nepal king can come and do the puja, right?
In Nepal, when he came, I don't know if you know, in 1922, our former King Gyanendra had visited Puri. So he was again allowed to, with the Prajapati, to go into the temple and perform these pujas.
Yes, he has done that.
Yes.
Right. You have a strong connection with one of the Odia royalty. Would you like to talk about it?
Yes, sure. That, I think, is for me, those other points that I told you before were historical facts.
Right.
The one closest to my heart is that my daughter is married in Odisha. She is married to MLA. He's just won the MLA seat from Balangir, Kalikesh Narayan Singh Deo, from the royal family of Balangir. His father, A.U. Singh Deo, was in politics as well, was a minister a couple of times. His grandfather, Rajendra Singh Ji, Raja Rajendra Singh Ji, was the chief minister as well. And my daughter being married here has been nearly 15 years. So that is the connection closest to me. And I have two little Odia grandchildren. Animya Narayan Singh Deo, who is studying in Dul School in class 9. And my little granddaughter, Amaira Singh Deo, who's in Kids in International. And I've come to babysit her. So, that is the connection. But there's another family tradition, I think, of the Rana girls and the Nepalese royalty, the Shahs and the Ranas, marrying into Odisha. And, so that is a very interesting connection.
Right.
So there was one of my husband's grand aunts was married to the Maharaja of Nayagarh. Then one other aunt was married to Saraikela. So, and then the princess, one of the princesses of Nepal was married into Mayurbhanj. Her daughter is married to one of my uncles.
Wow.
So there's this give and take, of the daughters
Right.
getting married there, the daughters getting married
here as
So there's a great family tradition of exchange of girls. So that is very interesting.
Ma'am, recently Penguin has published your second book, that is the Nepal Cookbook, 108 Recipes.
Right.
Please tell us the thought process behind writing this book and why 108 recipes and not 109?
Okay. So to come to this book, I have to start earlier with my first book. I'm passionate about cooking,
Right.
So someone had given me the idea, why don't you write a cookbook? So when my husband was a colonel and we were in this barrack in Nepal, very lonely. I was the only woman with 800 people. He was commanding the battalion. So I started with the idea of writing a cookbook. And since I was very, associated with the Rana cuisine, so I wrote a cookbook on the Rana cuisine. So it's called the Rana Cookbook.
That was the first book
That
you
was the
have written.
first recipes from the palaces of Nepal. That's also published by Penguin. And while I was waiting for it to be published, it was complete. Penguin had it ready, but COVID happened. So it went into incubation for a period of nearly 10 months. So while waiting for it to come out, I had this idea. I was getting bored. I was getting fidgety. So what should I do? And because I'm a soldier's wife, okay, my husband did become the chief of the Nepalese army, but basically I'm a soldier's wife. I've traveled with him all over Nepal, most of the places. And I have come in contact with the local cuisine of the different ethnic communities, which is so interesting. It's such a psychedelic, combination of different ethnic communities living in different areas. We have from the highest mountains in the world down to the Tarai, So very different ethnic. And I came in contact with them. I enjoyed cooking, and I ate their food. So I started, while waiting for my first book to come out, I started writing the second book, which is the Nepal cookbook. I've taken recipes from about 10 different ethnic communities. And now coming to your question, why the number 108? 108 once, anything auspicious in our Hindu dharma, right? The number 108 really resonates with anything auspicious. If you look into science, mathematics, Vedic cosmology, numerology, Ayurveda, you go into all these sciences, you come that the number 108 has a special meaning. It is a dynamic number.
Right.
In Ayurveda, we have 108 nadi points, and if you with the help of the 108 yoga asanas, if you manage to excite those nerves to make the nerves start working, then that comes to the heart chakra, and your 108 nadi points are also excited, and you have 108 malas, your 108 beads on our malas.
Yes.
The distance between the earth, moon and sun is 108 times the diameter of each of these planets. There are 108 Upanishads, 108 Vedas, So if you go into it, there's so many things. If you go into it more and more in the Hindu religion, the Buddhism and Jainism, all these points are there. So basically, it is a lucky number. It is an auspicious number.
Right.
So I thought if I use this number for my recipe book, hopefully it'll take my book to great heights.
Fingers crossed.
Totally. Totally. Yes.
So, okay, the culinary heritage of Odisha is Chappan Bhog, which is known as Mahaprasad and offered to Lord Jagannath. Have you got an opportunity to taste it?
Yes, I have. During my daughter's wedding, and before that, when we came for her engagement, we went for darshan to Puri, and we were able to partake of the Mahaprasad, the Bhog. So it's very, very interesting, and every time I've come here, I have definitely made it a point, to partake of the Mahaprasad, so the Chappan Bhog, and some items are definitely I have taken.
Okay. So which one was your favorite?
My favorite, I'm not too fond of sweets. I prefer the savory items. So I love the khichdi,
That is really awesome.
the khichdi, the
Yes,
saag
yes.
bhaja, the pokhala, all that.
Wow.
So, so few of the dalma, so all those items.
So you are an Odia by heart then.
Thank you. But it's very tasty food. It's very tasty food.
Yeah, right.
Thank you.
So have you got any opportunity to taste the street foods here in Odisha?
Unfortunately, no. My daughter's friend Pallavi, Preeti Pallavi is going. She said she's going to take me and let me taste, some of the local Odia food. So no, unfortunately, when we come here, we have the grandparent,
Okay.
title. So no one takes us to the streets and lets us eat that food.
But at heart, you are a child, it seems.
Absolutely, I've read about it, and I'm dying to eat. What is it? The aloo dum, dahi
vada and
aloo dum, or
Yes,
something
yes.
like that. And other items. I think I would like to.
Please,
what is
please
it called?
do.
Gupchup. That's a really
Gupchup is also very
is a
interesting, yes,
name
yes.
for the usual pani puri. And I love chaat, so I'd love to taste.
But it is not the usual gupchup you have outside of Odisha.
Okay,
There is a little twist.
I'm sure.
You'll have some sweet and khatta pani, meetha pani. We have a lot many options here.
Okay,
So
I have eaten the chena poda. So that
Did you like
yes,
that?
Yes, the khaja, the chena poda. I have
Oh,
eaten
great,
that.
great,
Very
great.
tasty, very tasty.
Great.
Yes.
So, do you think the food you take has some reflection on your personality?
See, I think of food. I mean, since my life revolves around it,
Yes.
Fortunately, unfortunately, I have a big battle with maintaining the weight. But food is the sustenance of life. There's nothing more important than food. They say, when we say, why is he working so hard? It's all papi pet ke liye.
Right.
So,
Right.
So our life centers around food. Food is the centrifugal force of nature, everything around it. And I think food definitely reflects not only just on our personalities, it is a showcase of our cultural heritage from where we come from. Because everyone, depending on where you come from, you eat that type of food, right?
Right.
And our personalities are a reflection of the food we eat. They say, people who love entertaining, eating, feeding people are usually happy people.
Right.
Right? They're usually happy people. So people who are a little stingy and don't like to feed others and all have this little bit of an introvert nature, or not so happy-go-lucky people, So I think it is definitely tells on your personality. And also the area you come from, like in Asia and in Southeast Asia, we eat a lot of spices. So I think we are very much more interesting people, we are outgoing.
Exactly,
And,
exactly.
we make friends easily, we are outgoing people, while in the East, if you think, in the West, if you think of it, the colder countries, the European, they eat more bland food. They don't like spices so much, more bland food. So they have a little more, let's say, what's the
Reserved
right
kind
word
of-
for it?
reserved kind of nature,
Yes,
maybe?
reserved personality. That's the right word. The reserved personalities are there. They're not so outgoing. They take time to make friends, So I think it is
True.
it is a reflection on your personality, definitely.
Exactly. So, in Odia families, I have seen my grandmother when she used to take her food. She'll take up a little bit of her food and keep it aside and pray to God. Then, after eating her food, this food will go to some birds or animals. So, we as Odia people think of our food as very sacred. So, what is your take on that?
Well, we have a very similar custom in Nepal, all of us being Hindus, I think. And till a few years back, Nepal was the only Hindu kingdom in the world. So our traditional ritualistic families, let's say the Brahmins and the Kshetris, the higher class, they would be doing this similar custom. Before sitting down, you wouldn't be sitting on a table, especially if you were eating rice. Rice is supposed to be chokho. Chokho is sacred, right? And pure. That's the direct translation of chokho, So you cannot have rice cooked by anyone, your own caste person or a Brahmin,
Okay.
right? You can't, if you eat any other food cooked by anyone else, it's okay. But rice, and the meal accompanying the rice had to be cooked by a Brahmin person of a higher caste or your own caste person. Then they would sit on the floor in the old times. Even my husband did it when he was a child, so it's not that long ago. And they would take this water and sprinkle it around the thal. Like you're saying, you're cleansing it,
Yes.
right? And then they would take little of the food and put it aside. They used to have a little patta ka dona type of thing, It's called a bota in Nepali or something. So you take little bit food. And like you said, later it was given to the birds, the animals, anything. But basically it's kept aside for the gods. So you're offering your food to the gods before you intake it yourself. And what is it for? You're just asking for blessing, and so that for your own well-being. So whatever food you are intaking, hopefully it is
That
going
should
to
be blessed by the
nurture you,
God.
and yes,
Yeah.
once it's blessed by God, it will nurture you.
Okay. Apart from that, do you believe that food contributes to the cultural heritage of a country?
Well, in Nepal, all our festivals and our rituals revolve around food. it is, people.
So similar to Indian culture.
Very, exactly. It's very, very similar. From north to south, whichever festivals we have, be it, it's called Dasai, which is Dashera. Then is Losar, which the Tamangs and Gurungs and Magars celebrate. And then is Maghi, which the Tarai people celebrate. Everything, it's the preparation of a certain type of food. It's richer and, more varied, and let's say, it's tastier than everyday normal food. And of course, the puja then is conducted, where this food is offered to the gods. And once blessed by him, is partaken yourself. There's a great custom of alcohol as well. Alcohol being prepared from the local, whatever the grain growing in that area, whether it's barley, millet, rice, whatever, kodo, they make alcohol and they offer that also to the gods.
To the gods.
Yes, and we have a goat sacrifice and chicken sacrifice. So what is all that meaning? You're offering it to the god just to consume it yourself. Once it's blessed by the gods, it's safe and
so that
okay.
becomes sacred, whatever it is.
Absolutely.
Great.
Right.
Okay, ma'am. Please tell me, does Nepal royal family follows certain food culture?
Food culture, okay. Yes, I think the royal families have a food culture in which I think their food is richer, and a little more luxuriant, let's say, the way it's prepared. And so, they don't eat. Our staple food in Nepal is dal bhat tarkari masu, that's so
Just like Indian families.
just like Indian families. But
Okay.
if you come from a royal family, you will be eating it in a silver platter. There'll be very much more varieties. It'll be richer, the way the spices and the ghee tel is used will be richer, so that. And then we have this very interesting costume which goes back again to the Ramayana times. When Lord Janak got his daughter Sita married to Ram, he prepared this special meal of it's called Chaurasi Vyanjan.
Okay.
So he prepared 84 different types of food, specialities of food for Ram to partake. And after the wedding, they all sat down and partook. 84 dishes were laid out. I don't think they could have eaten them all, but 84 dishes were laid out for them. So that system of Chaurasi Vyanjan is continued to date.
Great.
Whether
great.
it is in the annaprashan of the child when he has the first cereal, he or she, the child is eating the first time, they eat the cereal in the 4th and 6th month for the son, and 5th and 6th 7th month for the daughter. And then for the Bartaman is the thread ceremony, like the Janoi, what we have in India. So it's called Bartaman. And then for the wedding. So in these 3 occasions, this Chaurasi Vyanjan is laid out. If it's a baby, the aunt, the pupu, will be keeping the child in the lap, and the first, the parents will feed the first cereal to the child. But all this food is laid out in front of you, and same thing happens during the thread ceremony and the wedding. So it's all laid out, and basically, what is it denoting? Let there be plentiful of food throughout your life to bless you. Basically, it's that. It's just showing that everyone is blessing you, that may you always be well fed, basically. So that is one of our food cultures that we have.
Does royal family still eating on silver plates and gold plates as we have heard?
Gold, I don't know. Silver, yes. I think silver, yes. It's slowly, unfortunately, because, these metals are so much more healthy than pyrex and, melamine and
Right. I was about to ask you
Yes.
that as well. That is there any particular science behind using silver plates?
I think there is. I really think there is. There have been studies done, but if you eat in silver, of course, gold is really, just
Pure, the purest metal of all.
purest metal, but very difficultly available now. And if you keep a gold platter, someone steals it, you're gone. So silver was more used, and then kasa. There's a
Kansa, we
which
call
I
it
think,
kansa.
yes, in Nepal it's called kaas kothal. Kaas kothal. So a lot of the ethnic communities still eat in kaas kothal. That is their ethnic way of eating.
Okay.
Okay, and then if you come to the Tarai and other areas and the big festivals that happen, the Bhoj and the Pujas, all the donas made out of sal leaves.
Sal leaves.
So
Yeah,
women
yeah.
are sitting, with little, sticks and putting the donas and the pattals together, and everyone eats in that. And that, I think, is so good because it's biodegradable. You're not harming the environment,
Exactly, environment friendly.
Yes, absolutely. You're not using plastic, melamine, all these things are so carcinogenic. You never know. If you're heating it in the microwave, all those studies have been done now. So it is so much healthier to eat in one of the metals, not aluminium. That is one
Yeah,
metal
yeah,
that
that
they
should
say is
be
totally out.
not allowed. Yeah.
But kasa, copper, whatever, but not plastic. Definitely not plastic.
Thank you for being with us today, ma'am. It was a really great honor to have you with us. And we got a lot of information from you about Nepal, about Odisha, and your cookbook as well. And we are really happy to get a signed copy of yours. तो ये थिला हमर आजिर एपिसोड आशा करछु कि आपन भल लागिथिबो आ जदि भल लागुची ताले आपन निश्चय कमेंट बॉक्स रे जणांतु जदि किछ नुवा गेस्ट को आपन देखिया पे चाहउछन्ती हम संगे रे तांको नाम मध्ये कमेंट बॉक्स रे मेंशन करंतु धन्यवाद।